Let's take this show on the road. Same-ish, different day. I'll be bored out my mind. Hometown, love my place.
Hey friends, let's dye some yarn. Today we are going to be dyeing 2 skeins of fingering weight superwash merino, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. And the first thing we're going to do is to soak the yarn. So I'm going to add about 1/4 of a tablespoon of citric acid. The citric acid in combination with the acid dye and the heat will make sure the dye sticks to the yarn. And then I'm adding in water. I'm adding in 3 liters. Should be enough to completely soak the 2 skeins I've got. And before adding the skeins into their soaking bath, I'm going to add zip ties to the skeins to help them not tangle while I work with it. Like so. These are reusable zip ties. You can find those on Amazon. Highly recommend. And the other skein. There you go. I'm going to switch sides here. I just grab both skeins by the zip ties. And we're adding them to the water. And I'm pushing down to make sure it gets completely soaked. We want all the yarn to be completely soaked. There we go. And we're going to let it sit in this soaking bath for at least half an hour, and then we'll be ready to dye. Our yarn has been soaking for a little over an hour, and it's time to start dyeing. So what we're going to do today is attempt to dye a true black, which is one of the most difficult things you can do. Now I do have Jacquard's Jet Black, which I'm going to be using for dyeing this. But that one alone is not enough, because what happens when you mix black with white? That's right, it turns gray. So how do you dye a white yarn black if black dye only makes it gray? Well, here's the thing. If you mix the colors yellow, cyan and magenta together, they make black, that combination. Now I have yellow. I do not have true magenta or cyan, but I have the pink from Pro Chemical and Dye, and I have a sky blue from Pro Chemical and Dye that I'm going to attempt to use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get 1 heaping teaspoon of each of these, and then probably about 3 heaping teaspoons of the black one. And hopefully we will get as black of a color as is possible. Now when dyeing yarn, you do need to use your mask to protect your airways. I got some gloves as well. This is a very fine powder, so you want to be very careful. You don't want to inhale this. I got some spoons, a large one to stir with, an empty yogurt tub that I can put my spoons in after I'm done with the colors. And I'm using this to mix. So first I'm going to pour some water in my measuring cups, and I'm going to be mixing the dye directly in one of them. Mask on first. Don't forget, you get to have that. And we're going to start with a heaping teaspoon of yellow. Like so. In it goes. And we're going in with a heaping teaspoon of the sky blue. It really isn't quite close to cyan, but we'll make do what we got. And finally, the hot pink. A little bit more of that. There we go. So let's start by mixing this together and see what we get. It's a brownish, reddish color at the moment. We're going to add in the black as well. Starting to become a murky color now as the other dyes dissolve as well. Doesn't turn black, of course, since I don't have the correct colors. There we go. I'm going to put that there for now. I'm going to rinse one of the teaspoons to use in the black so that I don't contaminate it. Make sure to dry it properly. There we go. Now let's see what happens when we add a few heaping teaspoons of black as well. There's the black one. So I'm going to use 3 of this. Like so. And we're going to mix that in as well. There we go. It is a proper black in the measuring cup. I don't know if you can see that. Let's see how it translates when it hits the white yarn. Just going to mix it for a little bit. There we go. And I'll put that there. Okay, next we are going to put the pan on the stove. I'm going to top off this measuring cup up to 2 liters. I have another one already filled here. I'm going to use 4 liters of water. Since we only have 2 skeins that we're going to dye right now, that should be quite enough. So yeah, let's dye. Like I said, we're dyeing in this big pan, and the first thing we are going to do is add about a tablespoon of citric acid. The citric acid is so that it's in combination with the dye and the hot water. There will be a chemical reaction that makes the dye stick to the yarn. I'm adding in 2 liters of water. And I'm adding in the 2 liters that we have mixed with dye. I don't know if you can tell, but it breaks a little in purple. Can you see that? Breaks in purple, so we'll see what happens when we have dyed the yarn. I'm just going to put some dish soap in that measuring cup so the dye doesn't stick to it. There we go. And we're going to add in our yarns into the pot as well. I'm going to pull it a little bit closer here because I have a fan just above it. So I'm grabbing the skeins and I'm just squeezing out the water. Mostly to just make sure I don't make a mess. And I'm putting it in the pot. Same thing with the second one. And in the particles. There we go. And I'm turning on the stove. The yarn is in the pot. I'm going to push it down to make sure it is covered everywhere. We don't get any white patches. Just moving it about to make sure the dye penetrates everywhere. And as you can see, it does look very, very black at this moment. But we'll see what happens as we heat this up, and we'll see how much it will exhaust also. Pan is starting to heat up, and I don't know if you can see it, there is a slight hue of dark purple on top of the black, which hopefully means that we will get a really deep color, quite true to, close to true black, if we're lucky. I'm thinking maybe we should name this color the Morticia Adams Black. What do you think? I'm going to continue poking the yarn, just carefully moving it about to make sure that all the strands are dyed without agitating too much. And continue to heat the water and the yarn. The water has heated up properly now, and it's almost boiling. We're going to turn it down a little bit more. I've been poking the yarn every now and then just to make sure that we get dye everywhere. The thing with dyeing true black like this is not going to exhaust properly. We're going to be here for a week probably, because we only have 2 skeins of yarn in here, and we used 6 heaping teaspoons of dye for that small amount of yarn. There's a limit to how much it can actually pick up. And since the water is all hot now and the yarn is all heated up, what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn it off, and I'm going to set the pan aside to let it cool. It is going to continue to exhaust for as long as the water is still hot, which it will be for quite a while. And once it has cooled down completely, we can rinse it. And it's very important that we wait until it's completely cool before rinsing. Otherwise, we might shock the yarn. So that's it. We are going to set this aside and let it cool down. And next, we are going to rinse it. It is the moment of truth. Did we manage to dye a true black? I don't know if you can see in the pan here. It is, the yarn looks black, and we have this sort of brownish color left. We're going to rinse it now. It has cooled off completely, and let's see what we got. First up, I'm going to fill my rinsing tub with cold water. And I'll be using soap for rinsing the yarn. You can use dish soap, you can use conditioner, shampoo, whatever you like. Just make sure you rinse out the suds properly. With soaps, you don't have to do that. You only need to rinse once. I usually do twice. We'll see, I may have to do it even more with this, since it's a black. So I'm adding an extra squirt today. So I'm adding that to the water. And we're going to fill it up a bit. Now, since this is has not exhausted completely, we knew it wouldn't because we had so much dye in there. I'm going to wear gloves while fishing it out. And at least for the first rinse, otherwise it will stain my hands. Which wouldn't be the first time, to be honest. Okay, I can see one of the zip ties here. So I'm grabbing that. Let me shift the camera a little bit so you can see. There we go. I'll grab that again. Let's see if we can get it out. It has tangled some. There's a lot of red coming out. The yarn looks black though, for sure. And it has tangled quite a bit, which it tends to do when you dye in a pot like this. Let's see if we can find the other zip tie. Should be in here somewhere. There it is. Now squeezing out extra wine. Almost looks extra wine. The extra dye. It almost looks like wine. And we'll put that in there. There we go. Now we are going to rinse it. I'm going to squeeze it or push it down into the water to rinse it. I'm going to dunk it. We got a lot of extra dye here. I'm shifting the zip tie around a little bit to make sure I get everything rinsed. This is going to take more than twice. The yarn does look like it is a very nice solid black. Best way to detangle yarn is to dunk it like this in water. Or more efficient than any other method. I'm squeezing out the water. You can see the water is very, very dark. So I'm going to pour that out. It does look a lot like wine. I'm rinsing my gloves as well. Sorry, did not mean to kick you. Looks very nice. We may have to rinse it a few times to get rid of all the excess dye. We're gonna do it once more on camera and we'll see where we are. There we go, when we're adding them back in the rinsing tub. So, and there immediately comes up more dye. This looks more purple now. And I'm gently squeezing out the water. Squeezing it out. And as you can see, there's still a lot of dye left. So I'm going to rinse the yarn a few more times off camera and I will get back to you. I have rinsed the yarn several times more and the water is still not completely clear, which tends to happen when you're dyeing this dark. But I'm going to call it here. I'm going to hang it to dry. I have gotten rid of most of the excess dye. Excuse me. So I'm going to hang this to dry. I'm just going to put it on a regular clothes rack and let it dry for a couple of days and we'll see what we got. Here is the finished result. Please ignore any yellow fluff. I kept these next to some yellow yarn I also dyed. But we did make a true black, and the reason is because we didn't use just black dye. We also used something equivalent to cyan magenta, and so which kind of eliminates the white of the yarn and actually makes it black. I would love to see if you try to dye some black yarn as well, some true black. Tag me in social media if you do, and also if you make something with it. I would love to see that as well. Thank you for following along, and I'll see you in the next one.